We recommend this product be installed by a competent gunsmith.
Modification of your firearm may nullify the warranty of the firearms manufacturer.
No liability is expressed or implied for damage or injury which may occur from improper use or installation of this product.
You are responsible for the safe handling, legalities, and use of your firearm.
Warning: always wear safety glasses when working on firearms. Before working on any firearm, always make sure it's unloaded by removing the magazine and both visually and physically inspecting the chamber. To field strip the gun, pull the trigger and move the slide to the rear about 1/8 of an inch. While holding the slide, pull down the slide lock levers, push the slide forward until it separates from the frame. This would be a good time to install the Apex Glock Ultimate Safety Plunger. Though not required, the addition of the Ultimate Safety Plunger will deliver the best results by further smoothing out the trigger take-up. In order to replace the trigger, you will need to push 3 pins out from left to right: the locking block pin, the trigger pin, and the trigger housing pin. Once these pins are removed, take the slide lock lever out, then remove both the locking block and the trigger and trigger housing. To replace the trigger with trigger bar, rotate the trigger bar out of the trigger mechanism housing, then lift it out of the housing. Disconnect the spring from the trigger bar, then reconnect it to the new trigger bar. Place your new Apex trigger bar in the trigger mechanism housing and rotate it back into position. Reassemble the frame by placing the trigger and trigger housing mechanism into its proper position, followed by the locking block and locking block pin. Place the trigger pin into the frame about halfway so that you can capture the slide lock lever with it later in the reassembly process. The trigger housing pin should also be replaced at this time. Make sure all 3 of the pins are centered in the frame before continuing. Reassemble the pistol by replacing the slide on the slide rails and pulling it all the way to the rear. Check the gun for function and confirm the trigger safety is functioning properly. Starting with the Glock factory trigger bar, you will need to remove the polymer trigger from the trigger bar. To remove the trigger, place it on a solid surface that has a relief cut to allow the pin to break through. Use a pin punch and hammer to drive the factory pin through the plastic trigger body and out the other side. The factory trigger bar will now be removable. Please note that this process will destroy the factory trigger body so that it will no longer be usable. Next, snap the trigger bar into the Apex trigger body. Then, using a trigger assembly block or a business card to protect the trigger, use a vise with smooth jaws to push the trigger bar into position. Now make sure that the trigger bar pin is just sub-flush on both sides of the trigger.